Hannah, hi, welcome to the Female Startup Club podcast.
Hello, thank you so much for having me. I'm really looking forward to our conversation today.
Me too. You're in Sydney, right?
I am. I'm just in Sydney today. I'm not always in Sydney, but today is a Sydney day, so I'm excited.
Love a Sydney day. I usually start by asking people if they've had any wins or oh shit moments that they'd like to share, but it's only 11 a.m., so I'm hoping you don't have any oh shit moments to share, but what's going on this morning?
None that we'll go into. Look, this morning I've been to the gym. I've had a coffee. I've had a whip with my marketing team, which has been great. I've checked into my office in Barrel because I'm usually there today and I'm not. So I'm sure they're missing my presence. Not. So yeah, gotten some stuff done. Hey, it's 11:13. I've been up for many hours. We've gotten a lot done, but just been preparing for our chat.
Love that. Amazing. Cool. Well, we always like to get started by going back to where your entrepreneurial story starts. And this is circa, I'm thinking pre-2014 if you launched in 2014. So let's go back. Where do you like to start?
Oh, look, let's start 10 years ago. I always had a passion for fragrance and homewares, home decor. It's my thing. You know, some people really, really love fashion. I do love fashion as well, but, the home has always been a really important part of my life. I think I got that from my mother who loved entertaining and having people round. And I was always buying candles and diffusers, but I found that the actual candle and diffuser, yes, it was really functional and smelt really good, but it wasn't actually aesthetically pleasing. I found myself hiding them behind books, because they were sort of like an overly branded Vegemite jar thing, with a big sticker on it. And it didn't actually add to the decor of the home. So I wanted to create a brand that was both A, functional, smelt good, and B, aesthetically pleasing. So the entire brand came about because I wanted to develop a vessel, a really beautiful vessel that held the fragrance. So how do you do that? Well, I started sketching.
Well, first, before we get into that point, because I want to dive into that, but before we get there, are you working another job? Had you always known you were going to start a business, or had you kind of just what was the life around you like at that point?
Yeah, absolutely. So I was out of uni. I'd done a 3-year commerce degree, but while I did full-time uni, I also did full-time work. I come from a family of workers. We're workaholics. I love working. Some people just getting up and going to work just makes me really happy. A lot of things make me really happy. I'm a pretty happy person. But uni was fine. But what really did it for me was working. I loved the fact that, all my friends at 18, they had to borrow money from mum and dad, or they couldn't afford to buy whatever it was that they wanted. And, I was fully independent from the age of 18. I moved out of home because I was working full time on a salary. You look back and I was earning no money, and I was always dirt poor because you spend every cent you have at that age. But it was a really great time. So I was actually working for a fragrance business at the time, and I ended up working for them throughout my entire degree. And then when I finished, I went and worked for a marketing and communications agency. That was really interesting and quite a pivotal moment because it was interesting to be on agency side and working for a really wide range of clients. But I was often working with clients and I wasn't passionate about the product. And it just didn't give me that same energy and that same burst that it did when I was working for this fragrance brand, which I was really interested in and I was really passionate about it. So as I was working for the marketing communications agency, I just thought, oh my God, why don't I just start my own thing? Now you start off small, all this planning and, this was at least a 12-month process. And I was absolutely working full time in my marketing and communications job at the time, a month before I was ready to launch. So this is, a year and a bit into the process. I moved back home with my mum and dad, which was very interesting given that I'd lived out of home since I was 18. And I decided to start the business from their house. I don't think they knew that was really going to happen. I thought they probably just thought I was just moving in with them, but a bit of stock came with me too. And, next minute I'd taken over.
And are you thinking like you had quit your job and moved back home to pursue it full time, or you were still thinking side hustle, start small? You were all in. Okay.
When we get to it, you'll learn why I was all in from that moment. And it was because I already had pre-orders. So I had 20 clients before I even launched. So I thought, you know what, like I'm making the product, I'm being accounts, I'm being customer service, I'm being everything. I need to give this my all. And I was 24 at the time. I didn't have a mortgage. I didn't have kids. I didn't have a partner. I thought, if I'm going to do this, I'm going to give it my all. I've got nothing to lose. Let's give it a crack. And I did.
Oh my God, I love that. I love that energy so much. I have so many questions. The first two parts that I just want to cover before we get to those 20 orders was, what was the product at this point? Like, have you already ordered from somewhere else, or were you like hand making product? Like, what was the kind of product piece? And then following that, how did you start getting the word out there to get those 20 clients?
Okay. So the first one was actually developing the product. So because I wanted to have a unique vessel, I needed to design the vessel, and I worked with a manufacturer in China to design that vessel. That was easily the most expensive part of what I did. It was the innovative part where, you obviously have to have money behind you. Now, you've got to remember I'd been working since, I was 18, and then so at that point I'd been working for 6 years, but really I'd been working since I was 14. And, I'd been saving and, doing what I could, especially when I decided I really wanted to give this my all. I stopped going out and buying clothes and doing all that sort of stuff. I saved every dime. So I actually went over to China, and I went to one of the big trade fairs there, and I found a supplier for, firstly, my glassware, and secondly, for my packaging. So I designed the vessel, which obviously took a lot of time getting it right, making sure that it was safe for candle use, that it looked pretty, then obviously registering the designs, making sure that there was no IP issues, and that when I did launch, nobody else could copy it. So that was probably the biggest part. And of course, I had to order the stock, which, takes 60 days to make, then 30 days on a container. Well, it used to be 30 days door to door, China to Sydney.
30 days now.
Yeah, exactly. And so that stock was obviously delivered, and I set about making my first batch, which was obviously very interesting. Now, there was obviously trial and testing, and in that 12-month period, I didn't just wax in a jar and, see what happened. There was a lot of testing that went into that. But yeah, it was all pretty backyard. It was all being done out of my parents' home.
I love to ask about the money piece. You mentioned you had your savings, and that's how you're funding the business. What did you put in to get that kind of first inventory, that trip to China, the R&D, and getting you to launch with product?
Yeah, it was about $50,000, and that's just the start of it. We'll go into my favorite topic, which is cash flow, a little bit later, and how growing businesses absolutely eat money. But it was $50,000 to launch.
And at that time, like, had you thought about, product-based businesses, they require a lot of working capital, as we know. Were you thinking about the process of fundraising? Was that even something on your radar? Or were you just thinking like, I'm going to invest in my own business? Like, what was your mindset around money in the bigger picture?
Yeah, absolutely. Look, for me, I knew that if I sold my first lot of stock, that I would at least break even. So I wasn't looking for investors or anything at that point of time. I mean, you start really small. Obviously, you hope that it gets bigger. But for me, it was just one step in front of the other. If I got 20 orders, I was cheering at that time. So there wasn't really focus on that next level and that scaling and that growth. For me, it was just all about getting my product right. And then secondly, getting my customer base. So do you want me to talk about how I got my first customers?
Yes, I absolutely want to talk about how you got your first customers. Let's go.
Okay, let's do it. So I started off as a wholesale business. So I just sold my brand to retailers. I really only went online when COVID hit. When I developed my brand, I was developing it for all of these beautiful retail and homeware stores. So what I did is I wanted to directly engage with my consumer throughout that new product development phase. So I went into these stores that I knew that I wanted my brand in. And I actually just spoke with them, showed them the drawings, showed them the fragrances, showed them the packaging design, and I got their feedback. I think in this day and age, people are so scared, and I speak with a lot of people who are in those development phases, and they're really scared to show their product unless it's perfect. But I think my biggest piece of advice is directly engage with the consumer. It's all very well to show mum and dad or to show your friends, but are they the ones who are actually reaching their hand into their pocket and going to give you money for this? Not necessarily. So I developed relationships with retailers and got their feedback throughout the whole process. And it was pretty brutal. I've got to be honest, I've looked oh, just no, we wouldn't stock that. No, that's ugly. No, that's polarizing. No, my customer's not interested in that. No, that doesn't go with the decor of my shop. And you've got to take each bit of feedback with a grain of salt, because every single retailer, they're small businesses too. And, they've got a different customer base. But listening to that overall feedback was amazing. I actually found the other day the first packaging designs. I didn't launch with it because, remember, I got that feedback throughout the development phase, which is the best time to get feedback, because you haven't spent a bloody fortune on stock that then they go, oh, you know what, if you'd done that, it would have been better. And I actually ended up going with something completely different. I pared it back completely because of this feedback that I got. So I developed these relationships, and they got used to me coming into their store. I was probably a little bit annoying, but I've got no shame, so whatever.
And I feel like even today that's still relevant, like 100% relevant. That's still the blueprint. Yes, we're 10 years on, but like going into a store and just talking to the owner or talking to the buyer is like the step. Listening to their feedback and then getting on the shelves.
100%. And you'd be shocked at the amount of people who do not do it. Oh, no, it's not ready. I don't want to show them. They love the fact that you're involving them. These are the people who have these beautiful retail stores. They are your eyes and ears directly engaging with the end consumer. These are amazing people who know what their customer wants. So I spoke with them, and they sort of, maybe they got a soft spot for me. I don't know. But after that 12-month journey of speaking with them and showing them and, developing a relationship with them, business is all about relationships. They ended up taking the brand. So there would have been, 15, 20 people that I was doing this with. And after all of it, they want to take the brand. They felt like they had been part of the journey, and I'd listened to their feedback. So before I was even ready to launch, I had pre-orders. This is wholesale pre-orders of these people that I worked with. So that's why, of course, I needed this stock. I was all in, making product for 20, and these are wholesale orders. This isn't one candle, this is 30, 40, 50, 100 products. So I was, or units, I should say, not different products necessarily, because I only launched with a very small range. So that's why I was able to move back home and go, yeah, I probably need to quit my full-time job and, throw everything into it. So that was step one. Step two was like, okay, cool. I've got 15 to 20 wholesalers. I need more. So I literally took the product. I walked into other stores and I said, hey, my name's Hannah. Here's my brand. Do you want to have a look at it? And, some people weren't that interested, and that's fine, but I always left them with product. Burn it, touch it, feel it, experience it, take it home. Probably 9 out of 10 times they call me within a couple of days and say, you know what, this is a really nice product. And I'd say, yeah, cool. And the other thing I did was I did sale of return. So I said, look, if it doesn't sell, I will take the product back. There's absolutely no risk on your behalf. I needed these people to be the influencers. I didn't really know a thing about social media. I think Instagram was coming a thing then, but I'm not very cool. So I didn't really do Instagram, but they were my modern day influencers who were actually using their beautiful stores to showcase my product. And then what happened was that other retailers, because let's be honest, everybody looks at what everyone else is doing, they would see it in their store and go, oh yeah, Peppermint Grove, I'd love to stock you as well. So it was all about getting it in the IT stores of each state and, slowly worked my way around, and then the rest would follow suit. They'd give you a call. So that acted as my marketing tool. And guess what? That's free. It was completely free.
That's free. You were pounding the pavement.
Hell yeah.
It sounds like in the early years, just to kind of like re-summarize, in the early years, majority of your time is walking in, getting that relationship, leaving product, making sure there is no barrier for someone to like engage in a relationship with you, and then getting the product in that store and just rinse and repeat, rinse and repeat, and repeat. How many stores did you get into based on that strategy?
Oh, I would say easily well over 50, well over 50. So by the time, so I launched in early October, so October of 2014. I started working on the brand in 2013. And then the following February, so February of 2015, I did a trade show. So the gift and homewares trade shows, they're on in February, they're on in August. I went and I did a trade show. And again, like some people were like, oh God, that annoying girl who's been, visiting me for the last couple of months. But, I was a friendly face. They'd come and say hello. But, my stand was busy because people, the product was unique. It was a beautiful piece of home decor. It had a lid that was really functional that, people could use as a coaster, whereas other brands weren't doing that yet. My hair stand was busy. And I think, people are attracted to if something's busy or what's going on there, and then they come over. So from there, I got another 70 retailers. So literally, I had 110 retailers within 6 months of starting my business.
Is it just you at this point?
Yes, it's literally just me. It's literally just me. And then within 9 months, I think I do recall, I had some friends in the industry and I'd gotten a page in Elle magazine or something. And Maya saw the advertisement in Elle magazine, and they gave me a call and said, hey, we'd really love to chat with you. We're really looking for a new home fragrance brand. And I thought, oh my gosh, like this is incredible. So I flew to Melbourne, and it was just me and my box of samples. Like there was not a fancy presentation. Like it was literally just me and a cute little candle. And I walked in, there was about 7 people in the room. I thought, oh my goodness, what have I got myself into? But I just chatted. I chatted about my passion for the brand, why it was unique, what we were doing, da da da. And they rang me 2 days later and said, look, we'd really love to take a chance on you. And that was another huge turning point for the business.
Yeah. Like how many stores are we talking at that point that it launched into?
They put it into they had 65 at the time, and they launched it into all 65. So you can imagine though, they're working 4 to 6 months out. But I thought, oh my God, one, I need to make sure I have the stock. I need to have the infrastructure. Like I need to have
the capital.
EDI. Yeah, exactly right. And that's when you start going, oh my God, like how the hell am I going to make this thing work? But also I needed people, and also I needed a factory.
Yes. So.
Yes. Do you want me to go there?
We want to go there. Yes.
Okay. We can't be working out of mum and dad's anymore. Not if I want to remain their child that they really love. But also, when you start ordering that level of stock, you need pallets, and, you can't be delivering that to suburbia. It's not going to work. So I needed to get a factory, just a small factory, a small space. I'm sure we all know what Sydney prices are like. Even if you go out, to Western Sydney to factories, they are still so expensive. So I ventured out a little further to a beautiful place, the Southern Highlands. We say Bowral, but the industrial area is called Braemar. And I found this little space in Braemar, 110 kilometres away, but I could afford it.
What's the price at that point?
So it was a third of the price per square metre. As opposed to Sydney factories. Like I cannot remember the exact amount. I got like a short-term lease. I was actually, half of it was being used for storage, and then the other half I sort of had as this factory space. I literally got a demountable and put it in. That was my office. Maya thought I was joking when I told them, like, I'm literally working out of a demountable and sometimes sleeping out of a demountable.
What's a demountable?
It's like a temporary office thing. It's like, how if you might be building something on a work site and you see they sort of dump those cube-looking things.
Okay, got it.
Yeah. So I was literally working on this. So this is 110 kilometers away, right? I have no bloody money. Like every single dollar, I'm not paying myself. Every single dollar, I probably, let's be honest, had to borrow some money from mum and dad. Like, it was quite desperado, but whatever. I had nothing to lose. And I was having a hell of a lot of fun along the way. All of the wins of getting a store, you're jumping, like it was just so fun. So I moved into there. Oh my God, I knew absolutely no one. It was 110 kilometers away. So that's like 220 kilometers of driving a day. But I just got a blow up mattress and occasionally slept there. Definitely was not part of the arrangement, but whatever. I was going early and leaving late. And occasionally I'd treat myself to a room at the pub or a hostel. And that was what it was like for like the first 2 years. It was absolute chaos. It was great.
Sounds so exciting. I love a startup story like that.
Yeah.
When Maya specifically placed the order, a purchase order, I'm sure that requires a lot of upfront capital. Were you just kind of funding those orders through the profits made originally, or did you need to find more money?
Yeah, exactly right. So it was literally about putting all of the money that I was making from those previous orders, just using every single dollar went back into stock. I also needed to then find staff. Now, the other reason I decided to go rural was because there were government incentives for hiring staff in those areas because it was considered rural. So I went to these government agencies and they actually gave me staff. Then, the government, it was like a 60-70% rebate. So they didn't actually cost me a lot of money. So that was the other great thing, about being rural as well. And from there, it started to grow. And as we get a bit later in the piece, I did have to get an investor in. It was just impossible. Like I could not scale like I needed to. Remembering as well, this is not an e-commerce business. This is a wholesale business. I'm not getting the cash up front for those orders. I'm getting it 30, 60, 90 days EOM. And with the life cycle of the product, I'm buying the stock 9 months prior that I'm not going to get paid for 9 to 12 months. So it just became impossible. And I did get an investor in. And, it's the best investment they've ever made, or so I like to tell them, but they tell me too. And, and the rest is history. But I can tell you, I am still cash strapped all the time. Growing businesses eat money. I thought when I got to 5 mil revenue that things would say, what I thought when I got to 10 mil. No, your problems get bigger, your bills get bigger, that's just what happens. But I've been committed to putting every damn dollar back into that business. Obviously, I pay myself a wage and I pay my staff really well and we invest, but I've never taken a profit share ever. And I have no plans to. I'd rather put it back into the business and reinvest.
So for you, I want to get to the point of, 2020, circa 2020. So in that time between the first 2 years in business, getting to 2020, there's a bit of a gap there. What are the key moments that lead you to that investment? Let's talk about the investment and then let's fast forward to 2020.
Yeah. So with the investment, it just got to the stage where, Maya acted as a huge jump for, again, other retailers seeing the brand and I just couldn't afford to buy the stock. So it was actually through one of my retailers that I ended up meeting. They're very much a silent investor, but I met them. They were really interested in what the business was doing. They were shocked at what it was doing in, 18 months, 2 years. And they decided to give me a lump sum of money for a portion of the business. And they've given me that money and I send them obviously through all of the results, or my CFO does every quarter, and they approve the budget. But other than that, they've really been a silent partner, and their investment is what's literally allowed me to go to that next level in terms of scaling the business. There's just no way I could have afforded to do it otherwise. Sorry, where was the next part? Are we going to COVID now, or are we?
We can go wherever you want. We can go to COVID. We can kind of, hit on the milestones that got you there, whatever you like to go forward with.
Look, I think maybe we'll go to when I had to go online, because a huge part of what I was doing was that I was a wholesale business. And when COVID hit, and by this stage I had, 600, 700, 800 retailers, probably more, but also I'd started operations overseas. I'd set up a distribution center in the UK. I was operating in 14 countries using distributors, not necessarily distributing myself. The UK, I decided to do it a little differently. So when COVID shut the world down, my business literally shut down overnight. And we're talking department stores who had ordered stock 6 months out for Mother's Day. It was March that we shut down. Mother's Day was in May, my second biggest period of the year. I am in gifting, like that is my thing. I essentially lost everything overnight, and I didn't lose it. I nearly did. I was walking around my factory and I was like, oh my God, like this is it. This is the moment. It was then that I realized that ethanol is a huge part of what I do with the diffusers. And as well, I also had all of these beautiful vessels. And I thought, oh my God, I'm just going to make hand sanitizer. Let's see. But of course, I didn't have an outlet. So I built this dodgy WooCommerce site literally overnight. I am not IT savvy, as you learned before the call when we had all these tech issues for something as basic as a call. And I made hand sanitizer and I sold it on this website. Well, I did $70,000 in the first hour. The website crashed. I had no idea because nobody could get hand sanitizer.
So did you put it up on social media or something, or like you emailed your retailers?
Yeah, no, retailers were shut. I couldn't use that.
But as in like to let them know? Like how did you get the word out?
Yeah, so literally put it up on social media. So I literally posted on social media. All of my friends were like, my friend's doing hand sanitizer, blah, 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 blah. Everyone needed sanitizer. Yes, as well, we told our retailers some were open, like things like, pharmacies. So we have some pharmacies. They were open. A lot of the gift stores obviously weren't allowed to be open. And it literally sold out like in an hour. And at that moment I went, oh my God, like I think I'm actually going to be able to keep the lights on here. So that was a huge moment, but also introduced me to the world of e-commerce where, oh my God, you put a product up, someone buys it and the money is in your bank account straight away. This is a whole new world. An amazing moment. And it was only within, 2 to 3 months that suddenly the home fragrance, home decor market went absolutely gangbusters because everyone was suddenly at home. They weren't spending money on travel and fancy restaurants. They were like, you know what? My house is a sanctuary and I need to be calm.
Invest in self-care.
Yeah, exactly. And that was amazing. So we managed to build a proper website, not myself, an expert, a Shopify. And we entered the world of e-commerce and it's been a very steep learning curve. I've learned it's a little bit like building a house. There's just constantly bits and pieces and things that needed to be added. And I've now got a whole e-commerce team and a digital agency and, all of these amazing things. But it was a big moment for the business. E-commerce is now still only 5 to 10% of the business because it's only, we're 2 3 years in and we're, suddenly we're directly engaging with the end consumer. So even social media, we didn't really have a big social media following because we weren't really marketing towards the end consumer. We were more focused on our retailers. So that's been a steep learning curve as well. But together, the two are absolutely dynamite. So the manufacturing, the wholesaling, and then obviously the e-commerce as well. It's been really cool and made the business jump through the roof. It's been great.
Yeah, I read something crazy. You're on track to like 40 million this year or something bananas.
Yeah, absolutely. So I've now got a couple of different brands. I now manufacture for a lot of brands out there because a lot of people don't actually have their own manufacturing facility. And when you invest all of this money in infrastructure and, I've now got probably over 15,000 square meters of factories, across Australia. So, you need to keep those machines pumping. You've got all the staff. So when there's downtime, why wouldn't I manufacture for other people? So, people are shocked I make a lot of my competitors' product.
Yeah, that's amazing. You white label for the competitor.
100%. It makes sense.
What percentage of the business is that?
The white label. So I'll just go into the third part. The third part is that I've vertically integrated into producing my biggest raw material, which is the actual fragrance. So I now have a huge perfumery, which is basically a compounding lab. It's a dream come true.
Oh my God, that sounds so cool.
Yeah. And I'm basically vertically integrating into producing as much as I can of that supply chain. The brands are still by far, the biggest part of what I do. Contract manufacturing would be the smallest. And then this perfumery, which provides both my brands with its fragrance, the ones I white label for, and then also just the industry. You look at cleaning products, there is fragrances in everything. Like I'm now providing huge cleaning companies, home fragrance companies. There are so many beautiful, amazing fragrance perfume brands that are launching onto the market. They're not actually making their fragrance, of course not. They're using a supplier. So I've now sort of got these 3 businesses that all integrate really beautifully with each other. And, it's a really cool spot to be in because no one else in Australia in my industry is doing that.
How did you think to do that? Like, how did you kind of have that light bulb moment? Because I feel like that's such a clever diversifying change / not really a pivot, but, adding on. How did you actually hit that light bulb moment?
It was during COVID, and I hate to bring up COVID because everyone's sick of hearing it, aren't they? But there were huge issues with supply during that time. So I hated that my growth was being restricted because my suppliers couldn't supply what I needed. And I was like, this is really annoying. And as you've probably gathered, I'm quite fast and I do things, if I've got an idea, thank God I've got an amazing team who now go, okay, hand pipe down, like that's a beautiful dream, but let's revisit that in 9 months because I want to make everything happen yesterday. But it really frustrated me. And I went, hang on, like this is a risk to my business. Like, and the biggest thing was the fragrance, because obviously they had staffing issues. The whole industry went gangbusters. So, and, they couldn't get their raw materials because shipping was 90, 120 days, blah, blah, blah. And I went, this is a huge risk. But I also had a look and went, I'm also spending millions of dollars on fragrance a year. What if I could actually make the fragrance myself? And then it just so happened that a perfumer was out of a job and gave me a call, and it kind of snowballed. The biggest issue is that setting up a perfumery, oh my God, you need to have the capital. But because with COVID, I'd ended up doing really, really well financially. I had the money to do it. I also as well ended up getting a loan facility. So I used debtor financing for my brand, but I then also was able to, because of the way the business had grown, had access to a facility that I could draw down on. So they gave me a lump sum that I could draw down as and when I needed it. I needed the whole thing straight away. And that is what allowed me to do it.
Wow, that's so interesting. What a cool story.
It is cool. It is cool.
Actually, I've got two questions. So we'll stick on the kind of e-commerce pathway just for a second longer. What is shifting the needle for you now when you think about e-commerce as a channel?
Look, I think for us, e-commerce, and I'm going to be the first one to say that I'm not an expert in e-commerce. I'm lucky enough to have an amazing team who do run the e-commerce side of things for me. I think our biggest thing is that obviously the industry is really, really saturated, like the fragrance industry. It's now, it's really boomed in the last 3 or 4 years. So it's becoming really saturated, and, it's becoming a lot more expensive to play in that space and be competitive in the online world. So that's probably been a huge thing for us. And the other issue, I guess, with online for us is that, if people don't know the brand, they need to smell and experience, the product. I'm really waiting for like all of those, techie smart guys to come up with scratch and sniff for online. I'm just waiting. Surely it's going to be coming for us soon. But what it's allowed my business to do is it's allowed me to release a whole lot of cash. I suddenly have cash for products, which then, has just really increase my cash flow because I'm getting money overnight as opposed to in 30, 60, 90 days. So despite it becoming more expensive and being a really saturated space to play in, it's also though self-funding in that I'm getting that money straight away.
And I guess for you, it's very much a case of you have the retail presence, you have people who have bought your product for years and years and years, and then they find you on e-commerce and they come back around. So it's really two things that work in harmony with each other.
Correct. Yeah.
When you think about your journey, you've been building this business for a decade now. Do you think about an exit, or are you thinking long-term still loving the business? Like, how are you kind of thinking about, I guess where I'm going with this is like, it's a long time to be in this business. And I know you have 3 now. So of course it still adds a bit more like fun and diversity to what you're doing every day by building multiple things at once. But
yeah,
what do you think about your long-term plan and the long-term vision?
Do you know what? That's a really interesting question. And it's an interesting question because I constantly move the goalposts. People ask me this question, and depending when you ask me, I could have a different answer, because I think when you are geared as I am, and when you're an entrepreneur, you're constantly moving those goalposts, and you hit those goals, and you think, okay, great, now I'm sort of going to slow down a bit, or now I'm going to do this or that. And then you go, oh no, I should start a new business because I basically got a startup business again with this perfumery. So for me, it's just continuing to grow and scale, invest in the business, invest in my staff. I'm so passionate about my team. They are amazing. The business is absolutely nothing without the amazing people that make it go around every day. Am I open to an exit? Absolutely. Who is it? I think you'd be crazy not to be. I'm not married to the business. I've got 150 other things that I want to do. So I'm not scared of that. And I'm not scared of someone wanting to buy me out. Hey, give me a call, drop my handle. I'm always really open to it. But for now, I'm focused on one foot in front of the other. And I think I've been given a whole new lease because I love that startup phase. It's such a wild time. Now that I've got the mature business, which is Peppermint, Grove and Moss Street and the brands, and then I'm back in startup world with the perfumery, it's kind of given me that new lease that I needed because it's total mayhem, and I operate really well in organized chaos is what I call it. So that's where we are for now.
Amazing. I love that. I love that. For anyone who is in the fragrance kind of industry, whether it's perfume or candles or diffusers and products like that, what is your key piece of advice for folks just starting out in the early phase?
Look, I think my first piece of advice is be really, really sure about who your customer is. Who is it that is going to buy your brand or buy your product? It is a really, really saturated market now. So what is going to be your point of difference? What is going to make someone put their hand in their pocket and give you money for something? So that would be my first thing. Don't do what everyone else is doing. It's been done. We're not 10, 15 years ago when the industry was still quite new. It's quite a mature industry now. So you need to have that point of difference. So that would probably be my advice. Engage directly with your customer and get that feedback and be really clear on who your customer is.
Love it. We are up to the 6 quick questions part of the episode. Some of it we might have already covered, but we put it into a part 2, so we ask all the questions all the same. So question number 1 is, what's your why? Why do you wake up every day and work on these businesses?
Okay, my why would have to be 2 things. 1, the product. I'm really damn passionate about the product. I love fragrance. I love the way that it can change your mood, make you feel really good. I love the science behind fragrance. I love fragrance. The second one is the people. I'm a people person. I love my staff. I love seeing them grow. I love seeing the ideas that they come up with. I love my suppliers. I love my customers. That gives me a hit every single day, easily.
I love that. Question number 2 is, what's been your favorite marketing moment so far?
Because I'm old school, it's not some fancy PR thing because I didn't have money for any of that. It was doing my first trade show. The trade show acted as a moment for me in the retail space. And it was looking back at one stage, I went to get a coffee and I came back to the stand and there was like 30 people on the stand experiencing my product and going, this is really cool. That was a really exciting moment. That will always be burned in my brain. It was awesome.
Yeah, a profound moment in the journey, for sure. Question number 3 is, at the moment, what are go-to resources that you look to if you are listening to a podcast or you're reading a newsletter or you're kind of like getting a book?
Podcasts, 100% podcasts. I spend a lot of time driving because I live in Sydney, but I have factories out west in Bowral in the Southern Highlands. I'm in the UK a lot, China. So for me, it's podcasts. I love that I can listen to them on the go. Ones that come to mind, How I Built This, Diary of a CEO with Stephen Bartlett. I obviously listen to this podcast, which is amazing as well. Oh, I feel like I had one, Masters of Scale. That's amazing as well. The podcast with Mark Boris as well. I think just listening to other people's stories is really inspiring because it can be a lonely journey. I've now got some amazing friends who also have their own businesses, and it's so important to have that connection with them. People who work for someone else just don't necessarily understand. And it's nice to feel like you're not alone. And when I'm driving to Barrel and I'm driving back at 10 o'clock at night and I'm exhausted and I think, oh my God, 175 things went wrong today. Listening to them and going, oh my God, this happens to all of us. Yeah, I think that point of connection is really important.
Absolutely. Stephen Bartlett just liked one of my videos on TikTok 2 days ago and I was like, fangirl moment. You have seen my face.
That is a moment. Yes, that is a moment that's going to be burned in your brain for forever as well. Hopefully, you'll be a guest on his podcast
Oh,
one day too.
one day.
We
We
can
can
all
only hope.
dream. We can
Yeah.
all, yeah, absolutely.
Question number 4 is, how do you win the day? What is your kind of AM or PM rituals and self-care habits that keep you feeling happy and successful and motivated?
Yeah, this is a really great question. I'm a gym girl. So Monday to Friday, I am up at the crack of dawn and I am at the gym. It makes me feel so energized and alive and ready for the day. It's also the only time of the day where nobody can contact me. I have my Apple Watch on Do Not Disturb. Everything is on Do Not Disturb and no one can contact me. So I go to the gym, I come home, my beautiful husband always has a coffee for me. I have my breakfast and then I'm off for the day. And I'm really routined now in where I spend each day because I'm working out of so many different locations. It's nice to know that on Monday I'm in Western Sydney. On Tuesday I'm in Surrey Hills with my marketing creative team. On Wednesday I go to Bowral. On Thursday, so I'm really routined about where I am, and it also means that my leadership team and my staff, they know where they can find me on each day. That's really good for me. I struggle with a nighttime routine. I struggle with the concept of balance. I think for me, having a business is a lifestyle choice. There is no balance. I still work Saturday and Sunday, but I love that. It relaxes me. I still go out and have a lot of fun. Trust me, but it's a lifestyle choice for me. And for me, I wind down by just checking my emails at the end of the day before I go to bed, knowing what I've got the next day. That makes me feel calm. It makes me feel centered. So that would be my routine, if you will. But it's not for everyone. That's how I operate. So, there we go.
Got to go with what works for you. Question number 5. This is a cracker. What's been your worst money mistake and how much did it cost you?
God, how long have we got? I know
we've had some doozies.
Yeah, look, I know you said quick, so I will try and be quick. It would be a huge mistake with inventory management because I'm a manufacturer. I have thousands and thousands of raw materials. So it's not just that I've got my end product I need to focus on. I'm the guy making, the product too and buying thousands of raw materials. Unfortunately, I took my eye off the ball. I had a new staff member responsible for inventory management, and they went nuts with that ordering button. They ordered enough raw materials for 18 months, which you can imagine the effect that had on my cash flow. So how much did it cost? Like, it was millions and millions in terms of, obviously I got through the product, but the immediate impact on my cash flow was huge. I nearly went broke. It was that close. Because I had amazing relationships with my suppliers, they gave me extended terms. They helped me out. Like, it was purely my relationships that got me through that moment, and then being amazing and going, look, we can support you through this journey. But it was a big lesson for me in terms of taking your eyes off certain parts of the business. And it wasn't the staff members. I can't say it's anyone's fault. It's my fault. The buck stops with me. It's my responsibility. But that was still to this day a huge moment for me.
Yeah, that sounds like a big one. That sounds like a really big one.
Yeah. Oh, I think I'm still recovering. Thank God for Botox, honestly, or I'd look about 107.
Oh my God, lol, 107. Okay, question number 6. I'm sure you've got another one in the bank. What is just a crazy story, good or bad, that you can share over the last 10 years?
Oh, I don't know how crazy this is, but I haven't touched on it. So maybe I might go into it now, but I'll do it quickly. I think one of the biggest USPs with my brand, which I haven't even mentioned, is the ability for the Peppermint Grove candle lid to be engraved and personalized. And when I was actually developing the brand 10 years ago, I was in China, but I'd gone across to Hong Kong, just do some shopping and looking around, market research, if you will. And there was a huge, huge, huge line. It was hundreds of meters long. People were lining up for something. And I thought, oh my God, what the hell are they lining up for? And I went and had a look, and it was when one of the perfume fragrance brands, I think it was Dior or whoever it was personalizing the bottle. Now they were like engraving the bottle. And I thought, oh my God, that's really cool. And I thought, look at these hundreds of people lining up for this. And I thought, I need to bring that personalization into the home fragrance space. Nobody was doing it. So that was a really important moment for me where I actually changed the design of the lid because I wanted the lid to be functional, but I also was like, it needs to be able to be engraved as well. And that's become a huge USP for me. I have these engravers in not every store, obviously, because that's not possible, but in my Sydney City, my Melbourne, a lot of my big retailers, but also as an online offering as well. And still nobody's copied it. I don't know why. Not in a scalable way, because this is just this machine. It takes 2 seconds. But I'd say that was a crazy story that ended up becoming a really important part of my business.
I love that. Just a little quick moment. You see something, you're like, I love this. I get a good vibe. I'm going to try it. And it becomes a big deal. Oh, amazing. Got to look everywhere for inspiration.
Totally. It's everywhere. It's out there.
This was so great, Hannah. Thank you so much for coming on the show and sharing your journey and all your learnings and bits and bobs. Wow. Holy moly. I've loved chatting with you.
Thank you so much. I appreciate you sharing your platform, and have a beautiful day ahead.